medical study.
Hello and welcome, I'm Ruby Barlow and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the headlines of this hour. Israel says its Air Force hits Iran's presidential office and Supreme National Security Council compound with multiple munitions. The military says other key regime sites are also targeted days after joint US-Israeli strikes kill Iran's supreme leader at a separate compound. Iran's Red Crescent says the death toll from ongoing US and Israeli strikes has risen to 787 people since the war began. The figure, released by Iranian state-affiliated sources, comes as search and rescue continue after widespread airstrikes across the country. Russia says it has seen no evidence that Iran is developing nuclear weapons, according to Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The comment contradicts President Donald Trump's justification for war, as Iran denies seeking a bomb and nuclear talks remain collapsed after the US exited the 2015 deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war with Iran will not last for years as Israel strikes Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and Iran hits Gulf states hosting US bases. US President Donald Trump earlier projected a 4 to 5 week conflict, but now signals a broader, open-ended campaign as the fighting expands. Hezbollah says it targets 3 Israeli military bases with drones and rockets, including Ramat David, Meron, and a site in the Golan Heights, in response to Israeli strikes on its strongholds in Lebanon. The Iran-backed group says the attacks follow Israeli airstrikes on dozens of Lebanese cities, including southern suburbs of Beirut. The United States confirms its embassy in Riyadh is hit by drones overnight, closes the facility, and urges Americans to shelter in place. Saudi officials say 2 drones caused a small fire and minor damage, as witnesses report smoke and explosions in the diplomatic quarter. China denies reports it is providing military support to Iran and says its backing is political and moral, not weapon supplies. Beijing, which relies heavily on oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, condemns US and Israeli actions and calls for a ceasefire and return to nuclear talks. European and UK benchmark natural gas prices jumped more than 30%, hitting their highest levels since January 2023 as Middle East tensions intensify. Prices spike after Qatar Energy halts output following military attacks, with the UK seen as particularly exposed due to low storage and heavy import reliance. And now to our top story. According to Iran's local media, Israeli and US strikes targeted a building in Tehran that houses the Assembly of Experts, the body responsible for electing Iran's new supreme leader. According to reports, the strikes hit the building in Qom, south of Tehran, causing severe damage. Meanwhile, the Israeli military orders Iranian civilians to leave areas near a Tehran industrial area and Payam airport near Tehran, warning it will carry out operations in coming hours. Now, joining us live, we have retired Lieutenant Colonel Himanshi Singh, who is a Defence and International Relations Analyst located in New Delhi. Himanshi, thank you so much for joining us. Can you give the viewers an insight into what life is like for Iranian civilians right now?
Good evening, Ruby. Thanks for inviting me. See, as of now, we have seen that the entire war has spiraled up to something very catastrophic, and it is not going to stop in near future. The way Israel has done carpet bombing in Tehran, they have actually tried to eliminate all the political and military figures of Iran. However, the IRGC works on mosaic warfare. That means they have divided themselves in 31 small groups, and every group is working independently. Recently, they have targeted the causeway, which is connecting the 2 Gulf countries. And even if the elimination of these top leaders is there, still they are able to sustain this war. That actually shows that they are working on a structural model rather than depending on just one person to give orders, which is a very beautiful way of analyzing and preparing for war. I feel after the 12 days war, Iran had prepared themselves very strategically and militarily. That is why they have changed their strategy of throwing barrages of missiles and drones at Israel and other countries. They are going very slow and systematically so that they can actually, cause a lot of damage in terms of the defense system missiles. So when a small drone goes, which is costing anything between $20,000 to $50,000, the missile which is used to damage it is actually much more expensive. So they are actually well prepared and they have strategized it very well. Now coming to what is happening from the asymmetrical warfare side, Hezbollah is constantly giving trouble to Israel. They are actually forcing them to bomb Lebanon. So somewhere the US and Israel, they are actually, I think, foxed by the way Iran has handled the entire situation. If they had intelligence about where Khamenei sit and where they can eliminate these 40 people, where did they go wrong in calculating or miscalculating that what strategies Iran has prepared? See, Iran is a standing military power in the Middle East. They have their homegrown production of missiles and drones. So they are capable. Where the defense system produces only 620 THAADs, the production of drones is much higher. It's in thousands. So somewhere I feel Iran is in a much stronger position. That is why Netanyahu has appealed to 60 nations to sever diplomatic and economic ties with Iran so that they are somewhere preparing, they're strategically preconditioning the nations to come on their side before the kinetic escalation intensify. And they are trying to prepare so that they can bomb Tehran again with carpet bombs to put the morale of IRGC on a back foot. However, we have seen that when today morning there was a cremation of the dead bodies of students who were killed in the bombing at Tehran, the entire city was out on roads. They did not care about the missiles. So somewhere I feel even despite this war is becoming very, very disastrous, still people of Iran are holding on to their ground. The IRGC is holding on to their grounds. The political leadership is holding on to their ground. Now it is for US and Israel to think what to do next. Ruby.
Himanshi, please don't go anywhere as we move to our next story. Tehran's Mehrabad airport was hit by strikes, with local Iranian news reports saying explosions rocked the area and flames were seen near the facility. Iranian media said projectiles struck close to the airport hangars and sparked heavy smoke, though the runways and main infrastructure were not confirmed damaged. The attack comes amid ongoing airstrikes on Iranian territory by Israeli and US forces as the wider conflict intensifies. Israel's Magen David Adom Emergency Services reported treating 12 people for injuries after a fresh wave of missile attacks from Iran. According to an MDA statement, paramedics and EMTs attended to the victims at 3 locations in central Israel. Among the injured was a woman around 40 years old in moderate condition with blast injuries, along with 6 others in mild condition suffering from blast-related wounds. Israeli police confirmed their presence at multiple sites in central Israel and Tel Aviv districts where shrapnel had fallen. The authorities continue to manage the aftermath of the missile strike. Now joining us live, we have Dr. Satoru Nagao, who is a fellow at the Hudson Institute in Tokyo, Japan. Dr. Satoru, how could this play out for the Israeli people? Will we see further attacks, further injuries, further deaths if negotiations and a resolution to this war is not reached soon?
In this case, are you talking about damage on Israel or
Yes.
damage on Iran?
To
Okay.
Israel, yes.
In this case, even if the Iran launched nearly 1,000 missile and drones, the penetrating missile and drone is very limited number. So that's why indeed the Iran side is wasting many weapons just now. So that's why even if the small number of the casualty or death has happened in Israel, indeed Israel decision will not change because this is very limited damage. Of course, Iran will continue to use these drones and missiles, but stock is a problem because even if they are preparing the US bombing for a long time, they have already spent these drones and missiles last 2 years, and they also export many drones to Russia. So that's why it is not easy to expect they have the many drones and missiles. Under such kind of situation, if Iran continues the current level of launching the missile and drones, they will run out of stock soon. That's why they will choose the guerrilla tactics, maybe the many soft targets they try to use, but sporadic drone attack could happen, but massive drone attack, massive missile attack is very difficult to do. Maybe if they can do, maybe 1 or 2 times. View from this, if Iran uses this missile attack and drone attack as a decisive battle, the damage will be very limited for Israel. So that's why some casualty has happened. That's true. But Israel can continue the attack, I think, because the damage is very small.
Okay, Dr. Satoru, please stay with us as we move to our next story. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has called on countries to sever their ties with Iran during a virtual meeting with around 60 envoys stationed in Israel. He stressed that Iran's ongoing military campaign and attacks on neighbouring countries show why the world must act. Saar said the repression of its own people underlines the urgent need for countries to cut diplomatic relations with Tehran. The statement from Saar's office did not specify whether the countries of the 60 ambassadors had existing ties with Iran. Joining us again live, we have retired Lieutenant Colonel Himanshi Singh, who is a Defence and International Relations Analyst located in New Delhi. Himanshi, what would this practically mean if these countries did cut relations with Iran? Would it mean the lack of consular services available to Iranian people from those countries, and how would it impact perhaps further nuclear negotiations if negotiations are returned to? You would have perhaps 60 countries who now do not have relations with Iran and who may not be able to act as mediators.
See, what we are seeing, Ruby, is a deliberate expansion of the battle space. And let's deconstruct it, see what Iran is doing. They are trying to go all out to anyone who is in any way associated with Israel and America. If anybody is terrorizing the world, it is not Iran, it is USA and Israel. Let's be very, very clear on this. So Israel's appeal to 60 nations to severe diplomatic and economic ties is not a rhetoric, it is a strategic preconditioning that if in any case the kinetic escalation intensify, the states will try to shape the diplomatic environment, because somewhere after the war finishes, they have to reply to many countries and a lot of things get shaped up post-war. So Israel is constructing a legitimacy buffer, which I don't think they have it as of now. So they are positioning themselves that any forthcoming strike as an inevitable consequence of international inaction. So let's see, the Hezbollah is also claiming that they're striking the military sites, and they are also trying to upgrade the way they are fighting the war. So somewhere I feel Israel and US, they are scared because what they had thought earlier, that they will be able to finish this war by the barrages of missiles and the way they had bombarded the entire area. But this is not stopping. So by declaring that any, country which is having diplomatic tie or wants to have diplomatic tie with Iran should not do it, because see, the battlefield is no longer now related to only Israel or Iran. The battlefield has now expanded to many countries. So somewhere they're trying to control that how people are coming to this war, how looking at the war, because the battlefield may be in these countries. However, the impact is global. So the diplomatic mobilization suggests that Israel is preparing for a sustained engagement. And if you isolate your adversary diplomatically before entering a prolonged kinetic phase, then you are trying to create an architecture where they do not have any leverage. So Iran cannot overpower Israel and US in any way, because they are already facing a lot of economic crisis inside. Their military is also facing crisis of the leadership, but they know how to sustain the war. But somewhere I feel the countries like US and Israel, they are trying to ensure that Iran is choked diplomatically, militarily, economically, so that even if they are not able to bring this war to any closer, at least they will be able to tire up Iran.
Himanshi Singh, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time today. Now we move to our next story. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have claimed responsibility for strikes on targets in northern Iraq, specifically in the Kurdish region. The IRGC stated that it destroyed sites belonging to groups accused of planning to infiltrate Iran and carry out operations within the country. There's been no immediate response from authorities in Iraqi Kurdistan regarding the reported strikes. This comes as Iran continues retaliatory strikes across the Middle East in response to US-Israeli strikes in Tehran that have also resulted in the killing of the country's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei and other Iranian officials. Joining us live, we have Dr. Satoru Nagao, who is a fellow at the Hudson Institute in Tokyo, Japan. Dr. Nagao, of course, Iraq has already been through war with Iran, I think several decades ago. Geographically, it's located right in the middle of Israel on one side and Iran on the other. How could this war and this conflict between the US and Israel and Iran impact the Iraqi people? Iraq also deals with significantly divided territory along ethnic lines as well. So how could this impact the Iraqi people and the functioning of their state?
Of course, the impact will be relatively big, I guess, but just now we haven't seen the impact. Firstly, the Iran tactics will have the impact because their lack of the stock of ammunition, they do not have the confidence to penetrate the defense line of the America and Israel. That's why they choose another type of the tactics. In this case, attacking the many Sunni Arab countries at the same time. And so 9 countries, including this Kurdistan in Iraq, they are attacking and creating the confusion in the economic market, stock market, or the oil prices, and make pressure to the business style of President Trump. Because President Trump was a businessman and is businessman too, so that's why it's compared with the other military leaders, they worry about stock market or the oil prices Iran expect. So that's why they try to attack. But this taxi has a risk because Arab countries face attack from Iran even if they haven't cooperated with the United States directly. So they will be angry and they will be enemy of Iran. So after the Iran attack it, they are planning to retaliate. So that's why the impact will come later after Iran attack them. And so now they are planning to retaliate. And so Kurdistan cooperate with the United States. That's why the Iran attack it. So not, but at the same time they have some energy source too. So and as Iraq, other part of Iraq also under attack, or other part of or the Saudi Arabia, UAE, the Qatar, the Oman. Oman is try to mediate between US and Iran. Despite this, Iran attacked them. So everyone angry. And everyone has the right to retaliate, they believe. So that's why Iran's tactics against the US and Israel is creating the new enemy for Iran. Okay. So what kind of impact will be the uncertain, but it is clear that Iran faces many enemies at the same time just now.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Satoru, please don't go far as we move to our next story. The International Energy Agency, or IEA, says it is ready to help stabilize the global oil market, which has been affected by the escalating conflict in Iran. The IEA has revealed that its member countries hold over 1 billion barrels in emergency stockpiles. In response to the situation, the agency has called for a meeting at 2 p.m. Paris time to discuss the impact of the Middle East crisis. This comes as US and Israel continue to strike Iran, with Israel also targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon. The strikes have resulted in the death of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei and other senior officials from the Iranian regime. Iran's ambassador to the UN in Geneva has raised serious doubts about the possibility of engaging in meaningful negotiations with the US. This comment came just 3 days after the US and Israel conducted joint airstrikes against Iran. The ambassador stated that, at present, Iran does not see any value in negotiating with the US, and that only language Iran can consider is the language of defense. He emphasized that the country does not have time for diplomatic discussions while under attack. Joining us again, we have Dr. Satoru Nagao, who is a fellow at the Hudson Institute in Tokyo, Japan. Dr. Satoru, what do you think is the likelihood that we could see a return to negotiations between the US and Iran about the nuclear powers?
In this case, Iran is facing a little bit serious situation, not a little bit, very serious situation. And because before they run out their missile and drones, they should negotiate. But 1,000 drones in the 2 or 3 days is a very high pace. So that's why in the near future, they run out 1 week later, 2 weeks later, I don't know exactly, but at the same time, not so many is clear. So that's why anyway, Iran need to seek the diplomatic solution, but so when they accept some certain level of the restriction of the nuclear weapon development program and the ballistic missile program, they need to seek the ceasefire. Without this, they will face more serious situation after run out of their missile and drones. Now, because of that, they have already attacked many countries at the same time. So after the run out, everyone would attack Iran. So that's why they need to do before they run out the weapon stock, and that's why this diplomatic move is important. But in this case, accepting the restriction of the nuclear weapon development and the ballistic missile program is the key, and leadership is also key. Mr. Khamenei has already eliminated who will lead this negotiation. In this case, the President Pezeshkian, if he can take the responsibility of the political side, but other section of the government at least two-thirds of the faction is Pezeshkian, Mr. Pezeshkian does not have the influence. So that's for, and the Revolutionary Guard, how to deal with it, completely outside of the control of the President Pezeshkian. So that's why, under current situation, who will take charge of the diplomacy is matter in case of Iran, I think. And if they agree, what part of Iran can agree is the matter. And if this part of Iran can agree, but how to deal with other part of the Iran, that is also matter. So that's why diplomacy should start, but at the same time, currently who takes charge in Iran side is a little bit controversial, I think.
Okay. Dr. Satoru, please don't go far as we move to our next update. Hezbollah announces that it targeted a military facility in northern Israel, marking its fourth attack of the day. The group said it launched rockets at the Maryan Baruch site in response to Israel's ongoing strikes on Lebanon, which included Beirut's southern suburbs. Hezbollah described the attack as retaliation for the Israeli aggression that has struck several Lebanese cities and towns. The latest escalation between Hezbollah and Israel began on 2nd of March when Hezbollah fired rockets towards Israel following the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in US-Israeli airstrikes. Joining us once again, we have Dr. Satoru Nagao, who is a fellow at the Hudson Institute in Tokyo. Dr. Satoru, what's your assessment of Hezbollah's capability, given the fact that they have lost the capability of a key partner, Iran, as Iran defends its own borders in this war, and Hezbollah has been significantly worn down over the last 2 years through confrontations with Israel. What capabilities does Hezbollah have in this regard? For example, Iran has its own domestic capability to produce drones and missiles, but Hezbollah, of course, relied heavily on Iran for supply of weapons.
Yeah, that is very important because Hezbollah has used many missiles the last 2 years. So now still the Hezbollah has some certain number of the missiles, but if they use this stock of missiles, after that there is no supply because of the Iran cannot supply. So that's why currently Hezbollah carefully checks their stock and one by one they try to use it. But anyway, in the near future, run out shortage of the stock is there. It is clear that they will face. But in this case, view from the military power between Hezbollah and Israel, Israel has advantage. It is clear, but at the same time, we should not underestimate Hezbollah as a group. Because military power section, yes, they will lose their weapons, that's true, and destroyed by Israel, that could happen. But at the same time, the Hezbollah is a group not only consisted not only by the military section, but also the civil assistance section. So that's why, because of the civil assistance, as a group, their group is relatively strong bond. So that's why, even if eliminating military power, still they can continue as a group. In this case, if the group continue, in the near future, they can recover some military power. That could happen. So that's why, view from the Israel's military operation, they can eliminate the weapon, but at the same time, they cannot be the relieved. They cannot ignore the Hezbollah as a group in the future. That is also fact, I think. So combination of the two, Israel has the image towards Hezbollah, I think.
Dr. Satoru, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, of course. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has told Israeli counterpart Gideon Saar that Beijing opposes military strikes on Iran, emphasizing that force cannot resolve conflicts. In a phone call on Tuesday, Wang urged for dialogue and consultation to address issues instead of military action. Beijing condemned the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei as a serious violation and called for an immediate ceasefire. Wang Yi has also noted that recent Iran-US negotiations had made progress, but this process was interrupted by military action, further escalating tensions. China called for halting military operations to prevent further conflict. And now to Europe. According to reports, Dutch Prime Minister Rob Jetten has commented on the evolving situation in the Middle East by stating that the government is currently preparing for possible repatriation of citizens. The Dutch government earlier announced it would not repatriate citizens from the region due to the dangerous security concerns caused by US-Israeli strikes on Iran. Officials have reportedly revealed that they had received around 1,000 requests for assistance from Dutch citizens stranded in countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Qatar after flights were cancelled. And that's all that we have time for. Please keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.